Waiting for a decision for Louisiana Tech? The Ohio Bobcats enter the chat room? It's Locked On Sunbelt.
You are Locked On Sunbelt, your daily podcast on the Sunbelt Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day. Today's episode brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. All right, we'll get to the CEO phone call on Wednesday a little bit later. And then, interestingly, who's not going to Sunbelt Media Days coming up in a couple weeks? I will be there. At least that's the plan. That is happening in, well, I guess about 10 days. All right. So, again, we're waiting for Louisiana Tech or the Sunbelt to make a decision on Louisiana Tech. If it was up to Louisiana Tech, they'd be in. So it came out a couple of days ago, July 9th, Sunbelt leaders discussed more candidates to replace Texas State. This was from Shane Metlin, Daily News Record. He does a great job of covering JMU. So just like Sunbelt kicked the tires with East Carolina, Ohio from the MAC, the Bobcats, not ironically, but coincidentally, or maybe neither, they kicked the tires with the Sunbelt. And so Ohio called the Sunbelt to see if there would be any interest in Ohio joining the Sunbelt, which seems a little bit ridiculous. That's convenient for one team, Marshall. And it's not convenient for Ohio at all, because outside of Marshall, every other sport, you're hopping on a plane. Now, give credit where credit is due. Twitter handle, the Herd Bros, Marshall, of course. The Herd Bros Twitter handle put together, instead of East-West, they put North-South together, and they just tore apart the MAC. And I guess we could just go through it. They put Toledo, Miami of Ohio, Ohio University, Marshall, JMU, ODU, App State, and Coastal in the Sunbelt North. And then for the Sunbelt South, Cajuns, ULM, Arkansas State, Southern Miss, South Alabama, Troy, Georgia State, and Georgia Southern. All right. That got a lot of positive vibes from the people who don't want Louisiana Tech in. I mean, if you can do that, great. I'm not sure that is not. I mean, that's makes as much sense as Oregon in the Big Ten. What the Sun Belt has done, and has done really well, is keep those rivalries and created some, and those old time rivalries with the JMUs and the ODUs and the Southern Misses and the Marshalls are in there, and all those teams used to play each other. And Southern Miss and the Cajuns brought that together. Whereas it's really only Marshall and Ohio, right? And that is, they're like Ohio, Athens, Ohio is like 3 hours directly north. I don't know if it's 3 hours, but it is directly north of Huntington, West Virginia, as it turns out. I am 3 hours, about 3.5 hours directly. Huntington is 3.5 hours directly east of Louisville. But that's it. There's nothing more convenient than that. Ohio, Athens would be just as an outlier as San Marcos is. So I'm not sure if it makes any sense this go around. We can read you some of the article from Shane Metlin. He did say the Bobcats helped create the MAC in 1946, with current members Miami of Ohio, Western Michigan joining the following year. Sources said the talks with Ohio were preliminary, with both sides simply gauging interest, but Ohio had begun at least entertaining the possibility of leaving its longtime home in the MAC for a few reasons. The number of midweek football games in the MAC has resulted in decreased fan interest and ticket revenue. Once considered one of the most stable and geographically compact FBS conferences, the MAC recently lost Northern Illinois to the Mountain West for football and the Horizon League for other sports. The additions of Buffalo and UMass have increased travel costs in a conference that was once made up of entirely teams from the Midwest. Well, Buffalo's not that far. We're not going crazy here. UMass would be. UMass, you got to cross all of New York. We're not going crazy here. If you're going into, the upper echelons of Michigan, that's just as far as Buffalo is. Buffalo's not that far. That's incredibly western New York. These initial talks may be more about establishing relationships for the future than a current move, considering the potential for a massive realignment across college sports before 2031. All right. Well, he does say, while the state of Ohio is not currently in the Sunbelt geographic footprint, the Bobcats campus is roughly 80 miles, so not 3 hours, 80 miles from current Sunbelt member Marshall, and about a 5-hour drive from both James Madison and App State. All right. Well, then closer than I thought. All right. Nonetheless, that seems a little bit ridiculous, but let's be honest, not any more ridiculous than Oregon, UCLA, and USC in the Big Ten, to be honest with you, right? But I am one of those guys that open to new ideas. I appreciate someone thinking out of the box. The worst someone can say is no, right? The worst East Carolina can say to the Sun Belt is, thanks for calling. Let us think about it. The worst the Sun Belt can say to Ohio is, we appreciate the call. Let us get back to you. Just kicking the tires. So I appreciate the out of the box thinking. Probably need somebody to come with them. So I don't know if that would be another MAC school. What that would do, if you can get 2 MAC schools to come with you, that's going to help the basketball. That's where Ohio and the MAC are much better than the Sun Belt right now. And the MAC's pretty good in football. Sun Belt's better. But where the MAC is better than the Sun Belt is they usually get 2 basketball. They usually get 2 bids in the NCAA tournament. If their regular season champ doesn't win the conference tournament, they usually get in, where the Sun Belt does not, right? And not only does that happen last year to South Alabama, they didn't even get into the NIT, and that was a mess. So that's where the MAC would severely help. It's cold in Ohio, playing baseball. So that would be really interesting. Obviously, Sunbelt teams aren't, most Sunbelt teams, even Marshall starts on the road playing baseball. I mean, they start out in Hawaii this year. So they don't play up there usually. As we know, for South Alabama and, the Cajuns, a lot of teams from up north specifically come down to play where it's warmer in mid-February and early March before it thaws out there. Sometimes it doesn't thaw out until April way up there. It can be cold for a long time in central Ohio. All right, so we'll see where that goes. I don't think it's going anywhere anytime soon, but that caught a lot of people, and give credit to where, again, credit is due. The Herd Bros did the Sun Belt North and the Sun Belt South. So, and again, Ohio a little bit closer to Marshall, not 3 hours, less than an hour and a half, and not that far away from James Madison and App State. So there you go. All right. So something that happened on Wednesday And as of Thursday night and waking up Friday morning, have not had a result yet. We'll talk about that right after I tell you about Monarch Money. Ever wish managing your money felt easier? With Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day. All right, so Wednesday was my day off. All right. I did not know, was still waiting to hear anything, any update. I don't think we had any updates going on. And yet we got one. All of a sudden, nothing was moving. And all of a sudden I got an update, and I got it from more than one person. And then someone confirmed what I said, that there was a phone call, a CEO phone call on Wednesday afternoon at 3 p.m. And that means the decision makers, the presidents and the chancellors, not the ADs. The ADs do not have a vote whether Louisiana Tech joins or not. So it's up to the people running the universities. And it got hot and heavy. And I mean, the phone, bzz, 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 phone was off the hook, if you will. And then radio silence. How long can the phone call be? Hour and a half, 2 hours, and then nothing. Reached out to the same people who reached out to me. As I was told, crickets. Reached back out to some other sources, crickets. And so it was kind of interesting which way that could be. I sort of took it as we want to clamp down on some of the, if you want to call it, leaks. Okay. As the Sun Belt wants to announce whatever they want to announce. As some have pointed out, there are only a couple of people doing this. I seem to be one of them, that there'd be people with more of a following, and maybe the Sun Belt wants to leak it to somebody who has more than almost 6,900 Twitter followers, although growing exponentially. So maybe a Pete Thamel or Brett McMurphy or Ross Dellinger gets it before I do, because that's what the Sun Belt wants. Or no decision was made. That's it. And so, speaking to the source, at least one of the sources, on Thursday, we both kind of came to the conclusion that we were kind of right back to where we were at the beginning of the week. If they wanted Louisiana Tech in, they'd be in. They still, the holdouts, whomever they may be, and from my understanding, they are in the East, the West, and it's not only the Louisiana schools. The West are behind. Louisiana Tech. So that would include Southern Miss, ULM, UL, and Arkansas State, and Troy and South Alabama, apparently. They are behind La Tech getting in. So it is some holdouts over in the East, and you need 10 votes. So there's got to be, he needs 4. And when I say he needs Keith Gill. All right. And so obviously he thinks he can get some, and he's got to be close, because I'm told if there was a vote, it would be by 1. This is not like it's unanimous by any stretch of the imagination, because obviously if it was, they already would have done it. And so also there is a little bit of growing frustration with the commissioner, why he's pushing this so much. We don't understand that. And we'll see if we get an answer come Sunbelt Media Day. I went on the radio in Mobile, my old station WNSP, when I thought this was going to happen. And before I found out about a phone call on Wednesday, I didn't think it was going to happen before Sunbelt Media Days. Now, it may happen by the end of today, Friday. Maybe it happen by Monday, right? We may find out very quickly. And again, we may find out either way. We may find out Louisiana Tech is in. Keith Gill used that political capital. However, you can use that in this situation. And he convinced the people he needs to convince that you bring Louisiana Tech in. Or it goes the other way, that he has not been able to convince to bring Louisiana Tech in. And we find out that Louisiana Tech has been told they're not coming in. We could find that out as well. I don't know. It would seem somewhere along the way, you got to, watch the language here, blank or get off the pot, right? Somewhere along the way, like either this is going to happen soon or we need to move on type of deal. I don't know if that's something that, like Ohio, can you say, let's see, you make improvements to the athletic program over the next year or two, and maybe we'll consider you down the road. Is that something you want to tell Louisiana Tech? All right. I don't know. I also will say, it does take two to tango, right? And so it's not obviously. So when the Sun Belt calls ECU, as all the ECU fans will tell you, they're making a lot more money in the AAC than, they are in the Sun Belt. And so if you're going after WKU in Middle Tennessee, do they want in? I don't even know if they've gotten that far of asking. And do they want in? The reason it's gotten this far with Louisiana Tech is because they want in. And so far, outside of this recent revelation with Ohio, they're the only ones that I've heard that have wanted in. I guess some others, maybe some FCF schools, but that's not really helping the Sun Belt as of right now. And that's not going to, Sam Houston joins and Eastern Kentucky joins. If those are schools, something like that, that's not helping TV contracts, right? That's what we're all kind of looking for, is to get more money to the schools to help out with NIL stuff. So it does take two to tango, as much as we'll just call WKU. We'll just go Middle Tennessee. It does take two to tango. So we need to recognize that as well. So we'll see if something happens here by the weekend. Probably going to take the weekend off in terms of episodes, but obviously if we have news, I will do an episode. All right. Do have some more media days previews coming up with our guy Dominic Corsetto from Sunbelt Syndicate. It went long, so we'll do Monday and Tuesday, and then Rocky Boyman from ESPN, who's going to host it with Matt Stewart down in New Orleans. He's going to come on. That's probably going to be like the Monday right beforehand. We'll hold that off until right beforehand, but we'll do a lot of previewing of Sunbelt Media Days, which actually really just turns into a 2025 Sunbelt preview. That's what it really turns into. All right, let's take a timeout. We did get the list of players. We can go over them. I haven't done any of my research yet, but who's not coming is really what we're looking at. Specifically, which position. And that always lands in one spot. So we'll do that after I thank you. I really do mean it. It is amazing. We continue to average more than 5 subscribers a day. I mean, you think that sounds not like a lot. I had 43 subscribers between January 1st and April 1st. We're going to be very close to getting 150 subscribers per month in July and August to get to 300, to get to close to 2,500. And it's going to be close. We're a little bit short, I think, before 22 to get to 2,200 before July 1st, but we got there like July 2nd. And the Twitter followers, again, we're going to be close to 7,000, probably by the weekend, and probably by more than 8,000 before Sunbelt Media Days. And then by the season, hopefully we'll be over 10. So it is crazy. Maybe it's just taken me this long to figure out how to do it. Who knows? But I do thank you. It is amazing to see what this growth has been over the last few days or last few months. Really, it has been fantastic, and I do appreciate it. Thank you so much. Don't forget about those audio podcasts, setting a good record for the audio podcasts, Apple Podcast and Spotify. It is sincerely appreciated. Thank you so much. All right, Dave Schultz, Lockdown Sunbelt, your teams every day. So they did put the list out for Sunbelt Media Days, the players and the coaches. West is first, East is second, and hopefully we'll get everybody. That's the plan. I can stay there till about 12:30, 1 o'clock. I got a 3 o'clock. I got a 2:50 flight out of New Orleans, so I will leave not much later than 12:30, 1 o'clock. Airport's not that far away. We hop into an Uber, half an hour there at 1:30. So not that big a deal. So we got 1.5 days to get as many people as I can. All right. The West goes first. They almost have half of their quarterbacks coming. And that was the big surprise to me. And I had this up here and I closed out the tabs. So Jalen Rayner is coming. Braylon Braxton is coming. And good to see, you know who else is coming, is Goose Crowder is coming. I think that's exciting. That's awesome. All right. But Aiden Armenta is not coming from ULM. That's interesting. We don't have a quarterback from South Alabama. That's interesting. Texas State seems to have a quarterback battle. That's interesting. Okay, so that's 4 guys that aren't coming there. And also, no Walker Howard. All right, so this is where it can kind of get tricky. I think I saw the ACC brings 4 guys. That's a lot. SEC brings 3 guys. And so it's always a big deal when the SEC doesn't bring the starting quarterback. The Sun Belt only brings 2. Right. And it is usually a reward for the players. You usually get a night in New Orleans. Depending on what school you are, you may get a, maybe get a flight on a private jet, which is neat, right? If you're with the Cajuns or South Alabama, you may get a nice ride down I-10. But you may get, you do usually get a nice dinner. You might meet with some alumni. It's pretty, you get a nice night. You may hit the casino, whatever the case may be. And coaches like to reward the players, especially these days, where the players have been there through thick and thin. And so Walker Howard just got to the Cajuns. So it is kind of a reward for the players, although it is technically Sunbelt Media Day. The idea is you're actually there for the media, right? For us to get to know the players and to get the public interested, all right? Now, having said that, in Walker Howard's case, he's a known quantity in Lafayette. I will say that. All right? He's not, don't have to get to know him for the Cajuns. All right. I will say that. For the rest of the Sun Belt, it would be nice to get to know him. And this podcast, for my own selfish reasons, it would be nice if he was there. But to only have 3 of the 7 potential starting quarterbacks, and again, there are some quarterbacks that we think are raring to go, right? I mean, Aiden Armenta, I thought was the guy. All right, at ULM, I thought we knew who the guy was at South Alabama. Maybe not. I'm pretty sure Walker Howard's the guy at Louisiana, but again, maybe they have some veterans that they're bringing in instead. On the other side, there's only one in the East that, yeah, they're only bringing one quarterback in the Eastern Division, and that is J.C. French, the fourth. App State, I think they have a quarterback battle, right? Coastal Carolina actually has a quarterback battle. Georgia State does have a quarterback battle. I don't think James Madison has a quarterback battle. Isn't that Matt Sluka? But they want to reward some guys. Although Bob Chesney's only been there for a year, going into his second year, there may be some guys that stayed through the coaching change. Let's see who's listed. I'm not going to know these off the top of my head, but you do have Pat McMurtry, who's a grad student, and you do have Trent Hendrick, a senior. So, again, not knowing if they are transfers or whatever the case may be, but they may have spent their college career there. Bob Chesney is rewarding those guys. Tony Gibson probably has a quarterback battle on his hands, all right? Plus, he's bringing in a guy named Jalen Slappy. How can we not root for a guy named Jalen Slappy? Old Dominion, though, no Jason Henderson, but where's Colton Joseph? Right? He should be coming. He's the guy, right? I know he's young, but you would think Colton Joseph is there. He is bringing Zach Barlev, senior, and I mean, you got Chris Trinidad. He's a redshirt senior. So again, it's kind of tough to complain too much when you are rewarding the guys that have been a part of the program, especially Ricky Ronnie, who we're going to ask. It's going to be interesting, his response. Is he in his fifth year or is he in his sixth year? Because technically he started in 2020. They didn't have any games, but I bet you he was getting paid. So he is the longest tenured coach in the Sun Belt. And so it's tough to complain too much. But when you have 14 teams and you're only bringing 4 quarterbacks, that's really the difference in between the Sun Belt and the SEC, because the SEC brings 3 players. And again, I thought I saw the ACC is bringing like 4. Like Syracuse is bringing like 4 players to the ACC. That's a lot. It costs a lot of money. So the Sun Belt's only bringing 2. And so you are limited in who you can bring. And so a lot of these guys are limited to bringing the upperclassmen, especially like a guy like Mike Desimo, who has been there for a long time, heading into year number 4 as head coach, but was on staff for a long time. And so if there's guys who've been there throughout that tenure, whereas Walker Howard just showed up a few months ago, he wants to reward guys who have stuck with him, could have transferred out and maybe stuck with him. So you do appreciate when that is the case. Same with the Ricky Ronnie, right? If Colton Joseph is good, hopefully stays. But, all these guys, if they've been there for 4 or 5 years, you appreciate Ricky Ronnie showing his appreciation for bringing these guys down there. So we're looking forward to getting down there. All right. If there is, I only have 2 tours today. So if there is an update on a Friday, I think it's a great scene. Usually in a Jim Beam shirt, you see the distillery. I think it's a pretty cool setting. All right. I will do a video update if we get one. I do the first tour in the morning, and then I do one early in the afternoon. So we're looking forward to hearing news from Louisiana Tech. All right. We will find out if we hear anything. Maybe we hear something first thing in the morning. Who knows? We will find out. I would think I would be shocked if we don't hear something by Monday, one way or the other. But I was shocked when I heard about a phone call. So things change. When I say things are fluid, they could change at any moment. So, in other words, stay tuned to Locked On Sunbelt. All right. Again, thank you so much. Thanks for listening, subscribing, all that good stuff. Have a tremendous weekend. We are going to take the weekend off unless we do get the breaking news. And we will be back on Monday. And we have Dominic Corsetto from Sunbelt Syndicate previewing Sunbelt Media Days. All right. In the can, as they say. That's already done. All right. So thanks so much for tuning in. You've been watching Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day. Have a great weekend, everybody. We'll talk to you again on Monday.